If you found this video enjoyable, please leave a like and hell, even subscribe if you want to. It only takes 2 clicks, and push that notification bell just to get the messages for my videos. That would be greatly appreciated. La Squadra versus the Stardust Crusaders, a very interesting topic that I don't think a lot of people have either thought about or covered about on YouTube. Usually when fights are mentioned, it's one-on-one, but I've never really seen a team battle in terms of JoJo, and I think this is probably a great opportunity to see a team battle. So let's just jump right into it. For some prior context, I have made a video talking about power scaling in JoJo, and in that video I described JoJo being more strategy scaling and character intelligence more than power. But in this case, there are way too many variables to actually pinpoint an accurate winner and loser in terms of strategy. So this video is going to be more power scaling heavy. So with the context out of the way, let's just jump right into the fights. And I think I want to first cover La Squadra. La Squadra is built up of 9 members, but to keep it even and the terms of fairness here, I'm only going to end up using 6 because of the fact that one of them needs prep time and 2 of them are already dead and we don't know their abilities. So starting up Formaggio, he is probably by far the weakest of the Squadra, but he is still deadly in the most optimal of scenarios. Anything that is cut by his index finger will shrink rapidly, meaning objects and people included, with no known limit, and if you are cut by it, even if you move out of its range, you will still shrink. Little Feet's ability is super powerful, but the one downside is it doesn't actually have any destructive capabilities, only making things shrink, and due to that size difference between Formaggio and his opponents, usually crushing or stomping on his enemies will kill you. But to counter this big weakness, he does imply a lot of strategy with his little feet, which does lead to some success. Formaggio doesn't actually have any top tier feats, the only one being a pretty good durability feat when he was set on fire and actually used his blood to kind of unfire himself. I have no idea why I described it like that, but nonetheless, that's his only good feat. A good matchup for Formaggio would probably be Joseph, due to the fact that Hermit Purple just sucks as a stand, so I think everybody's gonna have that good matchup against Joseph. But overall, it's probably his only good matchup, and a bad matchup would probably be the full Magician's Red or Star Platinum. So moving on to Pesci and his Beach Boy. Pesci is the only character in the Squadra that actually has range that's not an AoE, fun fact. Beach Boy can go through objects and hook onto actual living beings, and slowly move the hook towards the heart or vital organs to kill you. Plus, with Pesci's accuracy and actually knowing of the body parts within humans, he is a deadly fisherman for people. Man fisher? Is that what you would call him, technically speaking? Anyways, at Pesci's height, Bucciolati would even say that his stand Beach Boy is even more formidable than Grateful Dead, and that's a whole different topic for, in the next coming minutes, but that means Pesci is ridiculously powerful, having the speed and accuracy to keep up with Sticky Fingers, which is a stand in and of itself powerful enough to keep up with Gold Experience and King Crimson. Pesci's range with his hook is only as big as a line, so it is limited, but it's long enough to actually do some major damage. And fun fact, if you try to destroy the line while it's hooked onto you, you will take the damage because you've touched the line, which means that there is a massive amount of potential damage being separated from actually killing you through your heart. And when bloodlusted, Pesci can actually become possibly even stronger, but that is debatable in and of itself. Pesci's best matchups would probably be against everybody due to him having range and actually having the ability to go through objects and knowing what he's actually hooking onto. He would be incredibly powerful, giving him the ability to defeat anybody that gets on the other side of the line. But in the worst case scenario for him, I feel like Avodol and Kakyoin would probably be his worst matchup because they have range as well. Moving on for Pesci, we get to Prosciutto, and this is where the stands get fucking busted. And when I mean busted, I mean like the fight becomes one-sided for La Squadra type of busted. Like, Jesus Christ. Prosciutto's Grateful Dead has the ability to make people slowly age within his range, and if directly in contact with Prosciutto, you instantly become old and you will die. The Grateful Dead's range is fucking ginormous, the calculated range being about 2,125 feet at bare minimum. Since the Grateful Dead had the ability to make the entire train age stated in the stand stats, this feat is at the minimum. There could possibly be even more train cars that we did not see thanks to the limited panel. And if you're a dude, well, that fucking sucks because you take 2 times damage, because I don't know, that's how the Grateful Dead works. And that is because of heat, because men make more heat exhaustion than women can do for whatever reason. The only weakness that the Grateful Dead actually has is that of cold, but the Stardust Crusaders don't actually have any abilities that deal with cold, so I don't think I'm going to have to really explain that to you guys very well. In terms of combat, it's actually a little bit weaker and slower than Sticky Fingers, which isn't bad. Overall, the Grateful Dead is ridiculously powerful and possibly a little bit weaker than Beach Boy, but thanks to the actual massive range that the Grateful Dead has, I actually don't think that's honestly the case. So in terms of matchups, the Grateful Dead is actually great against everybody. The only, problem character I'm seeing is probably Kakyoin, but that one's even fishy in and of itself because Kakyoin actually doesn't have a massive range like that. So moving on to our next stand user is Illujo and his stand Man in the Mirror. So this one I'm not going to go too in depth with because, well, basically the only good feat Illujo has with Man in the Mirror is actually able to take on multiple opponents at once and having the ability to trap stand users in the mirror dimension. Once a person is near a mirror, there is a great likelihood of Illujo snatching you from the other side. That's basically how the ability works. And if you try to summon your stand in the mirror world, it will appear in the real world. Basically meaning that you will never get out of that world without Illujo's help. And since this is a versus battle, that's not going to clearly happen. In the most optimal of scenarios, Illujo could theoretically take out the entire Stardust Crusaders. And if there were bad matchups, I would say Star Platinum and Silver Chariot are his biggest enemies due to their speed and precision and their power. But if overwhelmed by numbers and actually a good strategy, Illujo can be defeated, meaning that anybody trapped inside of the mirror dimension is now let out. So moving on to Ghiaccio and his stand White Album. Debatably the strongest member of La Squadra, having the ability to freeze really truly anything, even the air, up to negative 210 degrees Celsius, having the durability to resist Gold Experience's punches and Sex Pistol's bullets, on top of statements saying that he could probably even defeat Bucciolati and Purple Haze. And if it was not for the environment Mista and Giorno were in, they would have died. The 6-meter range and the speed of White Album is way too much for anybody. The human body may be resilient, but once reaching those negative Celsius degrees, you are getting slapped by White Album. White Album just truly has everything: the durability, the destructive capabilities, the feats, the range, the ability to freeze anything up to almost negative 210 Celsius. It's just a monster of a stand, and the fact that it took plot convenience to beat him shows that, well, he is a threat to behold. The only bad matchup I see, Ghiaccio having a problem is with Magician's Red, and I'll talk about that here in a bit, but that's the only time he's actually going to have a problem. Everybody else, they get fucking murked badly. And our last person in La Squadra, Risotto Nero and his stand Metallica. Risotto Nero can be described as the Swiss Army knife of this group, having the range, having the stand ability, having the stand intelligence, previous fight experience, and overall being a highly deadly assassin. Metallica has the ability to control iron in a 6-meter radius, meaning that the environment and your body are within his control, usually and probably leading to automatic death by scissors through your throat. And if that doesn't work and he has blown his cover, he can turn invisible thanks to the iron in the environment, gaining a stealth advantage. Now, something I do want to point out is his fight with King Crimson. I feel like this is kind of underrated for Risotto in general. Risotto is not a dumbass. He is clearly highly intelligent and probably the most intelligent out of the entire team. He was able to fight a, not at peak Diavolo because he was Doppio at the time, but he was still able to actually do a lot of significant damage to an opponent that knew the future. And if it wasn't for Narancia or King Crimson's OP abilities, he would have indefinitely won that fight. And also to mention this, he actually took bullets from Narancia's Aerosmith pretty damn well, so he is pretty damn durable. The only fights I see Metallica and Risotto losing are against Star Platinum due to his incredible precision and Magician's Red's fiery based skill set. Now, looking at La Squadra, they are incredibly OP, but don't forget the Stardust Crusaders do have a lot of power and potential with them. So let's move on to their side and their team. Now, starting off with Joseph Joestar, he he is by far the weakest member of the Stardust Crusaders, and I'm going to be honest, he's not doing a lot in this fight whatsoever. I'm not saying he doesn't have any combat ability, he does, but in terms of stand combat ability, it's very limited. And his ability to give information is like not useful at all here. I only seeing it being useful in maybe a fight with Metallica or Pesci or the Grateful Dead. That's about it, but that's only in terms of location and not actually combat. I don't see Joseph winning any of these fights, like at all. Like, he has disadvantage in almost all of them. And if you want to bring up young Joseph's feats, because I know a lot of people who like to scale Joseph during battle tendency as ridiculously powerful, but these are completely two different characters and completely different fights. Like, there's no comparison between old Joseph and young Joseph. So moving on to Iggy and the Fool, and this is where we can actually start, analyzing a good stand. So depending on how you want to view certain comments made by the Stardust Crusaders, Iggy is either the strongest Stardust Crusader or is up there with them. Now, the comments made towards Palmerit are a little bit fishy because, as we've seen in the past, the Stardust Crusaders like to make fun of Palmerit and get him, angry and mad for their enjoyment. So you could say the comments towards Palmerit are hyperbole and just kind of, just dicking around with your homies type of talks. And the self-insert comments made by Iggy in his stand description, or kind of his lore page, I guess, are kind of weird because, Jotaro kind of showed him up almost every time he was on panel after Iggy was shown in the end of part 3. So I really don't get where Iggy says he's stronger than Star Platinum, because I really don't know. It's like Star Platinum is ridiculously busted. We'll get into it when we get there, but like, Iggy is powerful, but he's not Star Platinum levels of power. Having the ability to manipulate sand, very similar to how Magician's Red can manipulate fire, is incredibly powerful. And in the fights that we've seen Iggy in, he always has a disadvantage, but due to his smarts and his defensive capabilities, he is a powerful stand user. And also kind of durable because he was able to survive Vanilla Ice's attack. So he's actually pretty damn powerful. Fights where I would see Iggy have advantage would be against Little Feet and Beach Boy. Due to that sand manipulation, you are going to be a big time threat, not to mention that you can also have a powerful defense by your side. So moving to Kakyoin and his Hierophant Green. It's a long range stand with a long range attack. It has the 20-meter Emerald Splash. It's been seen to take on several opponents at a time in the lovers fight. It can take a punch from Star Platinum pretty damn well. And Kakyoin can be seen as probably the smartest of the Stardust Crusaders, seeing how he was the only one to figure out that Dio's world was a time manipulating stand. Not to also mention the fact that he actually made the 20-meter Emerald Splash during that fight. The only downside is the, Emerald Splash is not that powerful. And if a fast enough stand can actually weave through its attacks, you are fucked. So Kakyoin does have some problems in the speed department. Some of his best matchups would be against probably Little Feet and Metallica. Maybe Man in the Mirror, but you are cutting it by a lot. Next is Magician's Red and Avodol. Depending on how you want to scale Magician's Red, you are theoretically dealing with the deadliest of the Stardust Crusaders. Having the ability to vaporize metal mid-air and controlling fire with absolute precision makes Magician's Red a ridiculously powerful stand. Magician's Red actually has the ability to compete with Star Platinum in the very early showings of Part 3, meaning that it possibly has the strength to match it. And depending if you want to see Araki's statements on Magician's Red as power scaling, then yeah, probably. I think Magician's Red's best matchups are against Metallica, Little Feet, Pesci, and White Album. Overall, the best stand in terms of utility in this fight. So moving on with Silver Chariot and Palmerit. Silver Chariot has two things going for him: his precision and his speed, being very similar and capable to Star Platinum. And he can also fire out his sword, but that is only for the most dramatic of situations. Depending on how you want to scale Palmerit 2, he could possibly even be, town level, but that feat is kind of fishy depending on how you want to look at it, but it is there. In one instance, while Silver Chariot was being controlled by Anubis, he was able to rival Star Platinum's power. Whether this was because of Anubis himself giving some type type of amp or not means that Silver Chariot is still a powerful force to be reckoned with. I only see Palmerit actually winning one fight possibly, and that is only to Little Feet, because everybody else on the Squadra has an advantage over him. Maybe Metallica if you really want to stretch it, but I highly doubt it. So moving on to our last stand user and their stand, Star Platinum the World and Jotaro Kujo. So Star Platinum is fucking stupid. Depending on how you want to scale his speed, he is either light speed or really damn fast up in the mocks. His precision is so damn fine he can look up to many miles away with pinpoint accuracy. He is able to bust diamond effortlessly. Jotaro and Star Platinum have a massive amount of durability and endurance, being able to keep up with Super Dio after a multitude of bones breaking in his body and taking stab wounds from Anubis Silver Chariot, and possibly having a rage amp boost type feat in the end of the Super Dio fight, which can possibly make all other feats he's had previously even stronger, plus also Starfinger if it is needed. Overall, Star Platinum is ridiculously busted. Also forgot to mention that he also has, time stop. So yeah, Star Platinum the World is just fucking monstrous. And depending on how you want to scale him, he can possibly destroy even a town, making him by far one of the strongest stands in the entire series. And databook guides like to give him a massive amp, saying that he is by far the strongest stand in part 3. So the fights that I think Star Platinum would do the best in would be against Metallica, Beach Boy, and Little Feet. Due to the fact that he can see stuff from so many miles away with pinpoint accuracy, just makes him a threat like no other. Plus, most of these guys don't have like massive good durability feats, and if they come in contact with a Star Platinum punch, it is most likely game over. So what is my final verdict on this fight? Well, if you were paying attention, yeah, no, La Squadra is like dicking down these guys like tremendously, like it's not even funny. Mostly because of Man in the Mirror, White Album, and the Grateful Dead. Those stands are just too ridiculously busted in this matchup, having the ability to freeze to almost negative 210 Celsius, having the ability to age your opponent with a massive range, and the ability to seal away the users of stands is just way too goddamn good. Not to mention Metallica and Beach Boy are just really goddamn good stands, because they're overall pretty good, but they can do a lot of serious damage to these guys. The only weak link here is Little Feet and his user. That's it, but even if then, he can actually still do a lot of damage if he actually puts in the certain, strategies and techniques he wants to actually implement in this fight. So even if then, if we want to lowball him, he's still a kind of big threat on the battlefield. A lot of the Squadra stands just hard counter a lot of the Stardust Crusaders. They have range, mostly range, utility, range again, another range, a close range stand that can screw up other close range stands. It's just not looking well for the Stardust Crusaders. Then you have a stand that has the ability to seal away the stand user of a stand. So, it's just kind of getting a little bit, one-sided at this point. But it's not a complete wash. I do think the Stardust Crusaders have a lot of power and potential. So I don't think it's like super mega, like dramatic. I think it's actually relatively close, but just La Squadra just has slight advantages over the Stardust Crusaders. Overall, I have to give it to La Squadra. They have almost every advantage in the book against them. Well, that's the end of the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.